NCD PMV operators told to shape up. Kina and ANZ banks positive about future growth. And bringing back the hausman concept.
This is National EMTV News with Meriba Tulo.
A very good evening. Thank you for joining us. This is Tuesday's news. Passengers of all PMVs have been warned not to chew, smoke or eat and drink in all public motor vehicles in Port Moresby. PMV operators in Port Moresby have been told to enforce these rules, beginning with bus and taxi operators themselves to not chew betel nut or smoke while operating a PMV. This was made known during a meeting with PMV operators and the National Capital District Commission today at City Hall.
City Manager Bernard Kippit met with all PMV operators today as the start to a 4 weeks dialogue with all taxi and bus owners to partner in keeping the city clean. The purpose of the meeting is to keep PMV passengers from throwing rubbish outside of the bus while it is travelling, something that has become a norm in the city. NCDC has advised PMV operators to stop passengers from chewing betel nut, smoking, eating or drinking into or inside any PMV. Failure to do so may see PMVs paying a fine of 500 Kina to 1,000 Kina under the Road Traffic Act. The police, NCD rangers and road traffic officers will be out in full force to ensure PMVs and their passengers comply with these laws. PMV operators have also been told to keep themselves clean and dress up neatly. Mr. Kippit says hygiene is one of the most important things many Papua New Guineans lack. Kippit further added that the city is changing and people's mindset has to change as well. Thus, certain rules had to be adhered to. The meeting in the next 4 weeks will see discussions with PMV operators, NCDC, Road Traffic Authority and other important stakeholders such as the Health Department to keep the city clean. Stacey Yalo, National EMTV News.
The Media Council of Papua New Guinea is concerned about the move by Madang MP Brian Kramer to protest against the country's two daily newspapers, Post Courier and The National. In a Facebook post over the weekend, the Madang MP accused the two dailies of being corrupt by publishing what he described as misleading statements and fake news and urged citizens not to buy the two papers for 3 weeks. In a statement today, the Media Council of Papua New Guinea said the campaign against the two daily newspapers was a slap in the face of honest, hard-working journalists in the industry. The council says if there is any journalist taking cash to influence their writing, they have no place in the industry. It has again encouraged the member for Madang to present his evidence to relevant authorities so the facts can be established once and for all. With the announcement of their acquisition of ANZ Bank's retail, commercial and SME business in PNG, Kina Bank has made known their intentions to continue to grow. Kina Bank CEO Greg Pawson has indicated that they are serious in expanding their reach in Papua New Guinea through this acquisition. Yesterday, Kina Bank announced the acquisition of part of ANZ PNG's business in a deal worth 24.2 million Kina. Following the announcement of Kina Bank's acquisition of ANZ PNG's retail, commercial and SME business in PNG, heads of both banks spoke to the media today. For Kina Bank CEO Greg Pawson, the acquisition was ideal as it fits well into Kina's push to increase its presence in the country. The deal, pending regulatory approval, is expected to be finalized in Q3 2019. According to Mr. Pawson, one of the most immediate effects is the increased footprint that Kina Bank will now have in the retail banking market, effectively becoming the second largest bank in PNG.
We're going to have a much bigger footprint across the country, so Kina Bank's reach into some of these more remote geographical locations will be easier, but we intend to do that through technology.
It also provides an avenue for the new look Kina Bank to focus on improving services through technology, especially in rural areas of the country. At present, ANZ has its digital platform, Go Money. According to Pawson, Kina will build on this service to expand its reach as well.
We don't have a formalised financial inclusion program as it stands today. We're very interested to understand what ANZ have done in that particular space, and as part of this we're actually building the capability to take on ANZ's Go Money platform, which was, I think, a key piece of banking infrastructure with their financial inclusion rollout.
The race to bank the unbanked is in line with targets set by the Bank of PNG to bank at least 2 million unbanked Papua New Guineans by the year 2020, a target that is reachable if the proper technology is utilized.
The Bank of PNG have a goal that you may or may not be aware of to bank 2 million unbanked by 2020, and there's an expectation that clearly all of the commercial banks and micro banks that are operating in PNG today will contribute to that.
And on the back of the announcement by Kina Bank, the head of ANZ has also reaffirmed their commitment to Papua New Guinea. Addressing the media today, Mark Baker clarified that the deal to let go of their retail, commercial and SME banking business was part of a wider strategy of ANZ, which aims to focus more on corporate clients in economies in the Asia-Pacific region. Baker reiterated ANZ's commitment to PNG, given the bank's positive outlook for the country's economy. On the back of the transaction announcement with Kina Bank, ANZ PNG CEO Mark Baker today reaffirmed the bank's commitment to Papua New Guinea.
ANZ are not leaving Papua New Guinea. We are not leaving Papua New Guinea. Our financial commitments to the country remain absolutely as they stand today, and they will remain as they stand. And quite apart from that, we have a really positive view of the country in the future for a number of different reasons, not least the incredible resources which the country have.
He said the deal with Kina Bank was not done in isolation, as it was part of the ANZ Group's simplification strategy, while also supporting customers with trade and capital inflows within the region.
This transaction is about a wider ANZ Group strategy. We've made it clear since 2016 that really we want to try and focus on institutional and large corporate banking in those markets and have less of a focus or move away from retail banking and the SME segment in those markets outside of our home markets of Australia and New Zealand. So the transaction from yesterday in Papua New Guinea is really just all about that strategy. It's not a reflection on PNG.
The deal with Kina Bank would now see Kina taking over ANZ's 15 branches, 72 ATMs and over 1,800 FPOS terminals. Mr. Baker also assured employees of ANZ that there would be no job losses through the deal with Kina Bank, which would be a win-win for both banks.
Not one single member of the ANZ staff will lose their job. Not one single person. Every person will be offered a role by Kina on comparable terms. For the areas of retail, commercial, SME, the staff that are remaining with ANZ, they carry on as normal. They're just focusing on corporate and institutional banking.
The Papua New Guinea University of Technology will be hosting a sustainable energy research conference to discuss the uses of energy in the country, challenges and possible solutions. Acting Vice-Chancellor Dr. Ora Renagi said this is an avenue for academics to present their findings regarding various forms of energy used in the country. The two-day event will start tomorrow.
This will be the first time for the university to host this conference. The Sustainable Energy Research International or SERI conference will focus on topics specific to energy production in the country.
In these 2 days, we'll be expecting research presentation in geothermal, in solar, in hydro, tidal, microenergy.
Acting Vice-Chancellor Dr. Ora Renagi said this will be an opportunity for academics to present their findings and provide possible solutions for the energy challenges in the country.
Then we have the knowledge hub to provide solutions to industry, to government that is needing development in the energy. So we are aware of the challenges that the government and the industry is facing in terms of energy provisions in Papua New Guinea.
He said it will boost and set a standard that the university hopes to raise in its technological research, both for its lecturers and students.
But more importantly, through our research, the students are engaged in their training.
The conference will be held at the university's Rose Kakedo Lecture Theatre starting tomorrow and is open to the general public in Lae. Lucy Kopana, National EMTV News, Lae.
The Public Employees Association has assured its members that they are working with the Department of Personnel Management to ensure that outstanding salary increments are paid. According to PA National President Robert Kutapai, they had met with the Department of Personnel Management regarding the 27 to 2019 MOA, which captures the 3% annual increment. He says given the current financial constraints, these awards were not factored in the 2017 and 2018 national budgets. However, there has been some progress, with the government committing to beginning the payment process starting with teachers, with uniformed personnel and law and order sector employees next in line. The PEA has assured the rest of the public servants that their increments will be paid beginning pay period 22 this year. Furthermore, increments for 2019 will be factored in the 2019 national budget as per the MOA between the national government and the Public Employees Association. You're watching National MTV News. We go for our first break now, but stay tuned. We'll have more of the day's stories when we come back. Welcome back to the news. The Mineral Resource Authority has partnered with the Center for Excellence in Financial Inclusion to increase financial inclusion services within the mining sector. Through an MOU, MRA and CEFI plan to facilitate financial inclusion activities in mining project communities who receive direct compensation and royalties. These activities aim to address key areas under the second National Strategy for Financial Inclusion 2016 to 2020. Acting Managing Director of MRA, Nathan Mosusu, and Assistant Governor of Bank of PNG, Ellison Piddick, signed the MOU, establishing a partnership to bring financial education to mining communities in the country. This partnership, a result of efforts through the Resource Sector Working Group under the Second National Strategy for Financial Inclusion 2016 to 2020.
To help the resource owners to have access to financial services, translate their money that they have been getting through royalties and save them in bank accounts and have access, hopefully, eventually, to digital fintech they can use to ensure security to their income and convenience and transparency in the way the money is moving, and so to those accounts, and so MRA can also it will bring great benefits.
The strategy has identified 7 key areas: resources sector engagement, digital financial services, inclusive insurance, financial consumer protection, access to finance for informal sector economy and agriculture enterprises, SME finance, and financial literacy and financial education. And with MRA's engagement with mining communities, the MRA is confident this partnership will add value to their relationship within this critical economic sector.
We're probably looking at about at least 1 million small-scale miners. But if we can do a proper survey to confirm that, that will make it easier for us to especially deliver this sort of program. But for hard rock mining, big projects, there are quite a few landowner groups which we have to.
Of particular focus will be the rollout of financial inclusion activities in communities affected by mining projects that receive direct royalties and compensation, something which has been identified as crucial for communities, particularly given past experiences of landowner monies being misused by agents. Through this MOU, MRA and CEFI have committed to working with financial institutions to provide training, with this model to be also used for other resource sectors in the country.
Is the bridge that will help the companies, that will help the government, that will help the banks to actually sit down and say, look, we need to create a product if each of the banks is not having that product. And so maybe BSP may have ATMs, but how many of our people have access to that? And the micro banks, they have their own products, but how many of the people actually having access to that? If there is a gap there, it is our job to actually fill in that, considering where the companies are coming from in terms of paying royalties and equity, and where the landowners are, and where as banks and regulators come in.
The government is 2 years behind its original schedule to submit its Open Government Partnership National Action Plan to the International OGP Steering Committee. A draft OGP National Action Plan was created after a second national workshop in 2016. However, it has since been pending NEC endorsement. The two-day conference will focus on ensuring the finalization of the OGP National Action Plan through discussions with relevant stakeholders and civil society.
Over 90 participants from government departments, NGOs, and civil society gathered this morning hoping to create a long-term dialogue platform to ensure the finalization of the OGP National Action Plan.
Threefold. Number one, we would like to do an immediate NEC submission to get endorsement for the draft National Action Plan for the Open Government Partnership PNG, number one. And the second objective is basically to create a national dialogue platform for open government partnership in the country. Period, or find a place, if you like, for the open government partnership that we can house in the country. At the moment, we have sort of ad hoc arrangements.
Launched globally in 2011, OGP is an international platform for domestic reforms to strengthen accountability of government and active participation by citizens. In May 2014, PNG Foreign Affairs Minister Rimbing Pato indicated PNG's intention of entry into OGP at the Asia-Pacific Regional Conference in Bali. Later that year, PNG was accepted as a member country, and the first national OGP workshop was conducted in Port Moresby with the assistance of the Indonesian government. The OGP involves co-creation of commitments by government and civil society for implementation over 2 years. Failing to meet the submission deadline in 2016 and 2017, the International OGP Steering Committee has now given PNG a new deadline, which is the 31st of August, 2018.
Civil society and government had actually prepared a first national action plan, but it was not actually taken up on board by the government. Various distractions occurred at the time, so it was put on one side. And since then, there have been various efforts by the civil society.
The government co-chair of OGP is the Department of Foreign Affairs, and the civil society co-chair is TIPNG. CIMC, in partnership with the Department of Foreign Affairs, Institute of National Affairs, and TIPNG, have all come on board to facilitate and ensure the deadline is met. TIPNG Chairman Lawrence Stevens, during his presentation, mentioned the crucial need for OGP National Action Plan in PNG.
In government system, you need freedom of information, and that freedom of information is not something that should be regulated by one of the players in the match. It's something that should be open to all of us. And this is where TI takes confidence and pride in being involved with government.
Failure to meet this deadline will result in PNG losing its membership as an OGP member country. Lilian Soperakinea, National, MTV News.
Morobe's Provincial Program Advisor for Education, Keith Jiram, has called on the government to delay the rollout of the new 166 school structure and focus on sustaining the standard-based curriculum in the country. The structure comprises of 1 year for elementary, 6 years primary, and 6 years for secondary education. The Education Department has implemented this structure in some schools in Port Moresby this year. It aims to apply this in all schools in the country.
While the PNG government is focused on implementing this 166 school structure, the government is yet to roll out the standard-based curriculum in all schools in the country. The outcome-based education used in the past was replaced by SBC. It was rolled out at the elementary level in 2013. However, some elementary schools in Leh are still using the OBE curriculum because the teachers are still not familiar with SBC. Morobe's Provincial Program Advisor Keith Jiram says the government should focus on implementing SBC and make sure it is sustained before applying the new structure in schools.
And that's in terms of amount of resources commit, it's split up. It's split up the resources. So that's why I made the suggestion that it would be best to delay the 166 structure rollout, and we place emphasis and focus and commitments on the curriculum.
The 166 school structure was introduced by the government this year. It replaces the 364 structure currently used in schools. The current structure comprises of 3 years for elementary, 6 years for primary, and 4 years for secondary education. With the new 166 structure, the government aims to have all children complete elementary to grade 12. This structure includes 1 year for elementary, 6 years for primary, and 6 years for secondary education.
The curriculum itself can be delivered in the current structure that we have. So the most important thing that the people want is the curriculum, not the structure. We are quite happy with the current structure. So importantly, very important for the country is we make sure that the success of the program is delivered.
The standard-based curriculum is yet to reach the primary and secondary schools in the country. The trainers of this curriculum have to be trained properly in order to train all the elementary, primary and secondary school teachers. It needs a lot of government support. 260,000 Kina was allocated by the national government to Morobe Education Division to facilitate SBC trainings in Morobe and Goroka in Eastern Highlands for the primary school level. Julie Badui Owa, National MTV News, Lake.
A tribe in the Kerawagi electorate of Simbu province has reintroduced the hausman system to address law and order problems in the area. The Kumai tribe officially opened the hausman on the weekend. The tribe also launched an incorporative group to receive donor support for income generation activities.
The Kumai tribe in the Coop LLG is reintroducing the hausman system, efforts to hold society together. Like in the past, every decision is made in the hausman and then passed on to youths, mothers and children so that community can function well. The community felt that Western culture has influenced the society and most youths has turned to drugs, homebrew and have become outlaws in the society. The introduction of the hausman system is supported by the local MP Barry Palmer.
And if something straight them wrong, so that the people by go to the next level. Me look go, Miss Kelly me go. Igo na me looking mo sem 1 plus ask for something. You mean lose thinking you mean all strong. Until I'm hausman.
Hausman system has gradually died out, but is still being practiced in few villages in Papua New Guinea. It is a house where village chiefs and leaders come together to make decisions for the community to function at its best. Hausman has a lot of functions. It produces good leaders. Wisdom is derived from the hausman for leaders to make the right decision that will benefit the community, and political system is also present to elect a good leader to represent them in the House of Parliament.
Education by changing the way system the people will live. Education and pay. Yes, I'm educated. That's all new school of grade 1 to 12. When now I'm standard for education by staff. Meeting was some grade 12 level all no learning enough.
Simbu Governor Michael Dua supported the Coop people and encouraged them to change their mindsets for services to reach them.
So our government will carry white stuff. Ruling not exist. I'm kind of so now me move back to basics. I'm plus so by me trying to change immediately.
Local MP Barry Palmer, who has over 20 years' experience in the coffee industry, has encouraged the people of Kerawagi electorate to form more hausman system and in cooperative groups so that he can supply 15,000 to 20,000 coffee seedlings to build the agriculture industry in the electorate. Vasinata Yama, National MTV News, Mount Hagen.
The government today declared a polio outbreak as a national public health emergency. The government also confirmed the circulation of vaccine-derived polio virus in Morobe province, and the UN has launched a response to contain the outbreak. World Health Organization representative in PNG, Dr. Lu Dapeng, said in a media statement this afternoon that WHO has already sourced 3 experts from its headquarters and regional office to support the government in planning its interventions and has mobilized about 1.6 million kina in funding. To control the outbreak, the UN is supporting the government in launching a polio campaign that will include 2 rounds of a supplementary immunization activity for Morobe, Medang and Eastern Highlands provinces. The first round will start on July the 16th, followed by the second round 4 to 6 weeks later. UNICEF is procuring 611,000 doses of oral poliovirus vaccine to immunize approximately 300,000 children less than 5 years old in these 3 affected provinces. Kina Asset Management Limited, KAML, today held the annual general meeting. Its chairman, Serabi Namaliu, informed shareholders of the financial performance of the investment company. Whilst it has been a generally challenging environment within PNG, the company's investments offshore have allowed the company to post a healthy net profit of 8.4 million kina.
Investments in those sorts of stocks, and Vanguard International basically invests on a whole variety of sectors on our behalf. The 5 months of this year are tough, very tough, and as a reflection of the domestic market situation here and financial situation, as well as overseas.
Here with Tuesday's news, we take a look at stories making headlines overseas when we come back. Stay tuned. Welcome back to National MTV News. Turning overseas now, tweets aren't likely to impress those demonstrating against Trump's border policies that saw children separated from their parents. Some have been reunited, but more than 2,000 are still being held in centers, and officials aren't sure how long it'll take for them to get back to their families.
Hundreds of protesters in Tornillo, Texas chanted "Free the Children" near the port of entry gates Sunday morning. The tent city is in a desolate part of the border about 40 miles outside El Paso. Free the children now! In a release by the Department of Health and Human Services, the agency says they have a process to ensure that family members know the location of their children and have regular communication after separation. But federal public defenders in El Paso say in a number of zero-tolerance criminal cases, their clients have not been told where their children are.
So when the president says that the stories of grief are over-exaggerated at the border, how do you contend with that?
I would say, Mr. President, come to El Paso and I will show you stories that are real stories of grief and sadness. They're not phony and they're not made up for the people who don't know where their 4-year-old child is.
Saturday, a delegation of both Republican and Democratic politicians toured the site that's currently housing hundreds of unaccompanied teenagers. 23 of them were recently separated from their families, and there are at least 7 girls inside.
Most surprising thing that you saw in there as you're walking through, what really kind of caught your eye?
Just the fact that you look around. I mean, we're in the middle of the desert, and you've got a tent city here. I think it's in many ways a monument to the failure of the federal government.
HHS also says separated children are able to communicate with their parent or guardian. CBS confirms those calls are limited to twice a week, 10 minutes apiece.
We need to make sure in Congress that the Trump administration provides a full and comprehensive list of every single child and their parent so that we can go then and audit and make sure that everybody is reunited.
The federal government says they know exactly where these separated children are, and the agencies are talking to each other. But they also say what slows down the process is confirming that someone who wants to talk to one of these children is an actual parent or legal guardian.
A few months ago, some women were being locked away for driving, and now driving is finally legal for everyone in Saudi Arabia. It's become the last nation on earth to allow women behind the wheel.
At the stroke of midnight last night, the second it became legal for them to get behind the wheel, these groundbreaking Saudi women hit the gas. Some of the first in this Islamic kingdom to get their license.
It's an amazing feeling to finally be here, to be able to live this moment. It's truly a historic moment.
I'm speechless. I don't have anything to say, but I'm so happy, thrilled, and excited.
It's been 28 years since a small group of brave Saudi women began demanding the right to drive, protesting by illegally taking the wheel and risking arrest. But they didn't get anywhere until the arrival of Saudi Arabia's new reforming crown prince, Mohammed bin Salman. He's also allowed girls to play sport in public schools, opened cinemas for the first time in decades, encouraged more women to join the workforce, and permitted music to be performed in public. A taboo for many conservative Muslims. Saudi rock band Most of Us wrote this song in support of women drivers, with apologies to Steppenwolf.
We're at the same period of the end of the 50s back in the West, where liberation happened suddenly. So people are going through the same here. We're seeing that, hey, we could be the Stones or the Beatles of this era here. Yeah, rock and roll.
But for Saudi women, true legal equality is a long way off. They still need a male relative's permission to travel overseas or get married. And in this deeply conservative country, some women won't be allowed to drive by their husbands and fathers, regardless of the law.
A treatment more commonly used to keep wrinkles away could end up improving the lives of those with Parkinson's. Doctors and patients are excited about trials to stop patients from debilitating shaking. It's proved so successful, they're able to eat, drink and even write without surgery or drugs.
This is Philip Webster last year when Parkinson's disease caused his arm to shake so badly he couldn't hold a cup of water. Fast forward and now the 74-year-old has much more control.
It has been life-changing. Being sort of free has helped.
The day-to-day activities he used to take for granted, like eating, drinking and writing.
And I tried to write the note and it was just like a fly had walked all over the page, and so he just couldn't read anything.
He's taking part in a trial at Westmead Hospital where 15 patients are being injected with botulinum, which can also be known as Botox and used as a cosmetic procedure. Here it's being injected into upper limbs to control shaking.
We're really focusing on disabling tremor that is generated from muscles around the shoulder and elbow.
With excellent results.
Go from not being able to eat breakfast themselves for years to being able to eat breakfast themselves again.
This treatment could be far-reaching, having benefits not just for those suffering Parkinson's, but people with multiple sclerosis or who have had a traumatic brain injury and been left with shaking in their arm.
The injection wears off after about 3 to 4 months, but for Philip, regular jabs are worth it.
I realise that it's not a cure, but if it's something that can help me in the quality of life, well then that's important.
Changing the paper stock on in-flight magazines is saving one American airline $300,000 a year. That's just one measure airlines in the US are taking to reduce the weight of their planes in an effort to cut fuel costs.
Long before this Boeing 787 left the gate, a team at United Airlines was focused on making it and their entire 750-plane fleet as light as possible. Every little bit counts, even on a plane that weighs more than 250,000 pounds. United rethought everything about its aircraft, from what's stocked in the galley to redesigning bathrooms, and yes, some of those did get smaller, to newer, lighter seats, many without heavy video monitors. These new cargo containers are about 80 pounds lighter, which will save 2 million gallons of fuel a year. And stopping duty-free sales saved United another 1.4 million gallons. That's a combined savings of about $7 million. Other airlines are also pinching pounds. Southwest is rolling out slimline seats in its new 737 MAX fleet. The low-fare carrier saved 148,000 gallons of fuel by changing how it stocks the galleys and dropping glass bottles for cans. Giving pilots tablets instead of paper manuals saves 80 pounds a flight. That doesn't sound like much, but it translates to nearly 576,000 gallons of fuel a year. That's more than $1 million in savings annually. fuel is basically 99% of an airline's carbon footprint. The 737 MAX is 14% more efficient than its predecessors. And later this summer, United plans to completely strip down one of its airliners to see if it can save any more weight and thus fuel.
Here with Tuesday's news, we go for a break now. When we come back, some sporting updates in Trukai Sports. Don't go away.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. The National Sporting Institute wants to revive the school sport concept in the country. NSI Director Janet Gimot says under NSI's primary school sports program, schools will be heavily involved with teacher training and hosting of school carnivals. Eastern Highland schools are the first to trial this concept.
Sporting activities have been part of the school programs since the education system was introduced in the country. Under the physical education concept, both track and field events including ball games have been part of that concept. However, sports in most schools have not been serious in shaping future athletes for the country. The National Sporting Institute has introduced the primary school sports program to create a pathway where schools are technically supported to conduct their inter-house sporting programs and also identify players or athletes.
We also have a bigger vision. And the vision being that we would like to see a national school games conducted in future once we roll this program out to the other provinces.
The idea is to conduct 4 provincial sports festivals per term in the school calendar with different sports played in each term. Talents identified will then represent the schools to participate in the provincial sports festival. Basic athletics coaching and official courses are also part of the program.
So the idea is that they conduct their program in the schools so that they also include it in their teaching program or the program for the term program, so that they are teaching the skills during PD or during PE, and the application basically is where they all come together to play.
The concept was trialed in 8 schools in Goroka district. Since then, the interest has grown with over 40 schools involved, with Ungai Bena, Kainantu, Engenofi and Goroka districts taking the lead.
We've allowed the teachers to take ownership of the program, and they've really embraced it and conducted successful school carnivals, inter-house carnivals, and then the district festival where the schools came together.
The program is similar to the PNG Games concept, however it focuses on primary schools. Attitude and moral values is also the core of the program.
Running our training, we're encouraging these values, respect, discipline, trying to create a new culture around sportsmanship, understanding the kids and how they can be able to appreciate these values. And we saw that all on Thursday.
NSI, National Sports Federation, Provincial Education Office and Provincial Community Development Office are some of the key stakeholders driving the concept forward.
The idea behind this is to revive primary school sports programs, which has been non-existent in the schools. We know physical education is no longer taken seriously.
Jack Lapave Jr., National EMTV Sports.
Meanwhile, the head of the National Sporting Institute in Goroka is calling for relevant support for the sporting facility. Director Janet Gimot told EMTV the institution is the center of sports in the country. However, it is not being supported like it should. A new gym and hall has been built. However, Gimot says more help is needed. She also urged national federations around the country to use the facilities on offer at NSI.
I appeal to them to support us more, because we need more to actually make sure that this facility is up to standard for athletes, in order for us to attract a lot more people, sports and national federations, and also outside teams if they would like to train, because this has a history of high altitude, and it's an advantage that we have in Goroka.
Paradise Foods' New Kick AFL development program is conducting school carnivals in a number of centres and attracting more than 1,000 students this year. The New Kick program visited 59 schools, both primary and secondary, to participate in the New Kick school competition, engaging 33,329 participants, all within a period of 6 months.
Engaging 55% of boys and 45% of girls, Paradise Foods' New Kick AFL development program has involved a total of 33,329 primary and secondary school students. The Paradise Foods' New Kick program covers 6 different centres, all attracting more than 1,000 participants, with Ley topping the attendance with 12,689. Development Manager Joe Meggio says the program is used as a pathway to identify and select players for next year's Queensland State Championships.
The school programs is basically the best thing that has happened for AFL, and that's basically the pathway for us, because we start from the little elementary kids, New Kick, up to the school clinics, which is, the upper grades up to grade 8. And then we have the school competition, and then from the school competition we go to the development carnival, and then end up playing in the States.
South Pacific Development Manager Ben Drew says the number of young players engaged in the program is overwhelming. He says so much potential is out there, even ones that have not been exposed.
The New Kick, Paradise Foods New Kick competition has somewhere around 65 school teams playing every Saturday. So these are just some of the kids that play in that competition. We're going to see around 1,400 talented players who are going to form the basis of our next wave, to having talent ID carnivals around here, so hand select the kids, and then we then invite, these kids will form the basis of our Binnatangs and Curricums for 2019. So far this year, in the 4 months that we've been with them, we've been able to reach somewhere over 30 to 35,000 participants around the country.
Currently, AFL PNG is visiting schools in other parts of the country, promoting and running similar events for participating schools. With the rising number of participants, it is expected to triple by the end of the year. AFL PNG is currently working to organise the New Kick school competition finals, as well as starting the Under-17 competition to commence in Port Moresby and to run the same program in more regional areas, including Madang, Rabaul, Central New Britain, Biala and Central Province. Godwin Eki, National, MTV Sports.
Bank South Pacific's recent sponsorship of 80,000 Kina has assisted PNG Swimming conduct a 3-day coaches and technical officials clinic. The clinic saw coaches and technical officials from Ley Amateur Swimming Club, Boroko Swimming Club, schools within Port Moresby and parents participating in theory sessions. The participants will undergo technical component during the Ocean Swimming Championships this week. PNGSI President Elizabeth Wells said this being the 16th year of partnership with the BSP, PNGSI has certainly appreciated the funding support over many years. We go for a break now and be back with more of Trukai Sports after these messages.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports, to the Football World Cup now, and it has been a night of incredible drama at the World Cup in Russia. On the headlines are what you'll expect, with Spain and Portugal progressing. That was only half of the story, with just seconds to go in both Group B matches.
Where the 2010 champion Spain were up against Morocco, the African side had already been eliminated, but they made it interesting when Khalid Boutaib took the lead on 14 minutes. Their advantage didn't last long though. Isco equalised just 5 minutes later. Spain haven't really impressed at this tournament, and they were in trouble again 9 minutes from time. Youssef On-Nesyri restored Morocco's advantage, and with Iran doing well in the other game, that could have been a problem, but Iago Aspas salvaged things with a very well taken goal in injury time to all the final score. Meanwhile, in Saransk, another game with extraordinary late Group 8 drama. Both Portugal and Iran had the chance to qualify from this group, and Portugal seemed to be in control thanks to Ricardo Quaresma. Things started to go awry when Cristiano Ronaldo missed a penalty, would you believe? And it was with a penalty of their own that Iran were able to level the scores in stoppage time. Karim Asarari fired on target. Just moments later, Mehdi Taremi had glory in his grasp. If he had scored that, Iran would have been through and Portugal would have been out. It was a game of inches. Portugal survived the emotional roller coaster and booked their place in the last 16. But for Iran, that was absolutely devastating to be so close, yet so far absolutely heartbreaking for them. So this is how it all shakes out. Spain and Portugal were level on 5 points and also goal difference. Spain topped the group because they scored one more goal, meaning they play the host Russia next. Portugal will play Uruguay. It was a very competitive group, though. Both Iran and Morocco can be very proud of themselves.
And that's it for Trukai Sports. We go for another break. Up next, the weather details for the next 24 hours.
Trukai Sports. Trukai Sports.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
A look at the weather forecast for the next 24 hours in the southern region. Mostly fine for Port Moresby. Rain and drizzle expected in Daru, cloudy elsewhere. To the Momase region, some rain and drizzle expected in Lae and Wau, some showers for Medang, thundery showers for Wewak, partly cloudy for Vanimo. To the New Guinea Islands region, rain and showers expected all throughout the region with some showers and thunderstorms for Kavieng. And in the Highlands region, Mount Hagen, Goroka, Kundiawa, Mendi and Wabeg, all these major centers can expect some rain over the next 24 hours.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
And that has been the news, sport and weather for today, Tuesday, the 26th of June, 2018. On behalf of the EMTV News team, pleasant viewing. Good night.